What are they thinking? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gonna do a little video taking a look at the Overwatch, the Overwatch dev update, the first one of the new year, and immediately I've never seen this before, it unified the entire Overwatch community against certain features that have been mentioned within this dev post, and we're just going to go through it and get to the particularly divisive point that is made pretty much later on into the dev post. Anyway, I'd also like to, put a little pretense on this. I think the dev's got a really rough time for it, so apologies for the introduction, but man, some of these changes, well, one of the changes in particular just seems completely baffling. Like, I just don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're hoping to accomplish with it. I have an idea what I think they want to accomplish with it, but it doesn't seem like the best way of doing it. Anyway, so they start off with, the welcome, we have certain goals for the new year, New Year's resolutions in Overwatch, sure. One of the biggest values of the team is to improve Overwatch's individual and team-focused gameplay, meet the needs of our core audience. Cool. When I look at the future of Overwatch, a year or two out, I don't see the exact same game that we're playing now. Yeah, no kidding you don't. I mean, 2 years ago you were in 6v6, right? And the game was a completely different beast. When we went to Overwatch 2 and it went 5v5, there was a lot more fluidity, and it took a bit of time for people to get used to this 5v5 system, but we've sort of settled down into a groove right now. They also had, but with a few more heroes and maps added to it. Sure, content is always good. The game should always evolve with new systems and features that serve our players. True. It should. If you're going to use this model of a game where it's free to play, there's going to be battle passes, you want this continuous cycle of development on it, you need to keep adding stuff to the game that will bring back customers, right? Which makes it a real shame that certain features you've added to the game, like LFG, for example, you just remove from the game again. So, it's all well and good saying we're going to evolve with new systems, but you need to evolve with new systems that improve the core gameplay, right? Some of these features could live, there we go, English reading hard, could live just outside of the match, such as a map voting system. So this is the first thing on the dev take they tease. Map voting system. Some of these could be larger systems that define the way players interact with the game, such as our competitive system. Yes, the ranked system right now sucks. And some of these changes could be within a match itself. Modifications to the moment-to-moment gameplay. Alright. The last part is where I'd like to talk about today. Additional director's takes will look at the other parts of the game that I mentioned, such as the competitive system, hero balance, and economy. I'd also like to take some time to talk about future events and limited time game modes, as well as larger systems that have a possibility of coming to the game. Alright, let's first of all talk about the map voting system. So this has been something that has been bounced around for a long time, because certain maps, people love it. King's Row, everyone loves a bit of King's Row. I'd say in typical as well, Lijiang, people love Lijiang Gardens, Lijiang Tower, and Lijiang Night Market. So Lijiang, great map. People get very unhappy though when they get put into Havana, right? People are normally not thrilled when they get put into something like a Rialto, right? Okay, rather than address why people are unhappy and why people are sad, they've decided to come up with the idea, and again, this is what other people have mentioned, why don't we get to pick what we get, right? So, let's say King's Row is offered against, Havana and Rialto. People will pick King's Row because it's a more fun map. And this will mean that people will stop playing these two maps, whereas everyone will start playing these maps. Why is this a bad thing? Well, you're not addressing what the problem is. And this, I honestly think, is a big part of this director's take, is just not addressing what the problem is. Even not addressing the problem that they're saying they're trying to address is the issue. So the issue here is Havana and Rialto, they are almost caricaturistic maps that just, they cater to one aspect. And that aspect across the entire map is long-range hit scan. So if you're a long-range hit scan lover, you probably really enjoy these maps, right? However, the general community doesn't love just playing snipers, right? They like to play a variety of things. And on King's Row, you can play a bit of sniping. You can do a little bit of close range rush. You can do a little bit of a dive, even. It caters to more options. Even flankers get a bit more value on King's Row than some other of the maps mentioned. I'd also like to add to this as well. I think one of the other big maps that people hate, Circuit Royale, absolutely awful map, terrible, get in the box. But yeah, everyone hates this because of the characteristic flaws of the maps. Circuit Royale, their big flaw, no flanking angles. So you just literally are fighting in a corridor, which rewards then people having a shield, long-range snipers shooting down the alleyway, and whoever gets the pick first wins, right? That's not really good for team play, right? It is a bit better for your individual focus as long as you're the individual playing the hit scan, because the other individuals don't really matter. But rather than, doing this map voting system, which all that's going to happen now is that people pick King's Row more, and if you're a hit scan, like a long-range hit scan player, you're not going to get to play the maps you're good at more often, which means you're going to lose more games, because you're on maps that people can counter the long-range hit scans better. Therefore, you're going to relatively drop in rank compared to where you should be, whereas those that play like the more... I guess it's just heroes that benefit more on these more popular maps. Maybe like, Lucio's are pretty popular on King's Row and stuff. They're going to rise above where they otherwise would be. The answer to this problem isn't to put a map voting system. The answer to this is to look at the maps that people hate to play and say, why do people hate to play this map? And then when you identify people don't want to play long-range hit scan on all 3 points of Havana, or all 3 points of Rialto, maybe with the exception of the third, or on all points of Circuit Royale, you might then go, oh, hang on a minute, maybe we should address some things by changing the map slightly, maybe offering new flanking routes by opening up areas. However, this is obviously a harder fix than just implementing map voting systems, so it appears map voting is coming in. The other thing they talk about is the competitive system. I guess I can deal with a little bit here, but they've already talked about the competitive system that's going forwards. They're going to introduce a system where, rather than what it is now, where you win, 5 games or lose 14 or lose 12, I don't even remember myself anymore, you have a bar instead which shows your progression, and as you win games, the bar will go up, and it will tell you what the reason was for this. It'll be you won the game, you're on a map win streak or something, therefore we've given you this amount of rank. And you can see how far you are from the rewards of either failure and dropping down a rank or moving up a rank. What I'm also hoping they're doing, because they're introducing, I think it's called Ultimate or Ultimatum, or I don't know, they're introducing another rank at the end of the game for no reason whatsoever. I hope in this high rank, they also have a number, because you know what? The best players in the game, they like to be rewarded for knowing they are the best players in the game, or at least have an idea where they are on the scale of best players in the game, which is one of the flaws of the current system. No one has any idea how good people are. Right? For example, I've been watching a few streams recently where Funny Astro is going for rank 1 rank 1 support, full stop, in EU, and he has no idea how many wins he has to get to rank 2, and how many more wins on top of that to get to rank 3. There's then had people from the rank 2 saying I don't know how you've not caught me yet because I won less games than you, and it's just what is happening here? What is the system? If only we had, I don't know, a number which just told you what your rating was, and you could see the number go up or the number go down, depending on how you performed, and it would give you an idea, relative to other people, what their numbers were, how close in, gameplay quality you are to lose to people, right? Anyway, I'm hoping Ultimate introduces a number system for the very top-end players. I know the reason they got rid of SR was because of, worrying in rank, I don't even want to call it rank performance, I guess. People got a bit spooked, a bit almost bullied even for the SR number. But it's not really changed that much, right, when you just put a medal on it. If people were, 1,000 SR before, it doesn't really matter if they're bronze 1 now, right, or silver 1 or whatever that corresponds to. they're still going to get, called out in, like, the game chat. And anyway, if you're in the competitive game, hey, opponents, you're at this rank too, dummy. So, I don't fully get it. I think they took a back step, when they went to this competitive system, but I'm hoping they do address these issues, and it does seem, at least based on this bar system, like they have a good idea of what the issue is, and they're going to address it. I just hope that they do this as well, because then people have something to grind in the top levels. Anyway, I don't have to worry about that. I'm nowhere near up there, so. But for the other, like, more dedicated players, sure. Alright, let's get to the next point. So let's get into Overwatch gameplay, starting with the obvious. Overwatch is a team-based, hero-based multiplayer competitive shooter. Right, this is what the devs are saying. This is what Overwatch is to them. Team-based, hero-based, multiplayer competitive shooter. Excellent, I agree. Heroes, maps, and game modes are all designed to require teams to work together in order to successfully win a match. Yes and no to some degree. You can have someone that just completely carries a game. It's easier to do that on certain heroes, on certain roles, than it is on others. But yes, in general, you do need to have some teamwork to win a match. When teams work together, each player using their hero to the fullest potential while relying on each other to execute a strategy, the game feels magical. Hell yeah, it does! It's a great game then, right? There's really no other FPS like it. Probably also true. I've never played Paladins before, which is obviously cut from a very similar cloth to Overwatch, but I don't know if they have quite the same system as it. The only other games I can think of like this are MOBAs, and obviously that doesn't meet the FPS requirement. However, when this isn't happening and players aren't working on their own, the game is far from magical and can become frustrating. Also very true. The reliance on teammates can simultaneously be one of the best and worst attributes of the game. True for all team-based games. You cannot fix this. This is not fixable. Well, within reason, it's not fixable. Why? Why do I think this is not fixable? Okay, when you log into a game, why are you playing Overwatch? What is the purpose of you playing Overwatch? Is it to win games? If yes, you probably are relying on your teammates to also have the same thought process as you. You want them to be winning the games. And this seems obvious, right? What if you log into the game with your idea that you want to win the game, of course, but you want to win the game playing Junkrat, let's say. Not a very popular hero, and you want to prove people wrong that Junkrat is a great hero and can be played at the highest ranks, or you want to be the best Junkrat that is in the game. Your idea of what the, takes to win a game does not correspond anymore to, well, sorry, I drew the arrow wrong, but it doesn't correspond to these guys anymore, right? Who are on your team who just want to win the game at any cost. You then might have someone on your team that wants to win, but they win by playing a very specified hero of roles, like they might only play the main support role, right? Which isn't unreasonable. You have a niche set of heroes you want to play, you play them to the best that they can possibly play, then you can climb up the ladder with it. This, again, does somewhat correspond to these ideas, but you get stuck then when, someone else also is in the game who wants to win with main support. And the game doesn't really cater for double main support comps particularly well right now. And it all then gets to, horribly, horribly messed up when you get, 5 conflicting ideas together. And then on the opposition, you might just have, win at all costs, but we play main tank when it's a good main tank meta. You might have DPS, it's win at all costs, but I'm a hit scan player, and we're on Rialto. We have another DPS, did I put DSP, am I stupid? DPS, another hit scan player, Rialto, brilliant, love it. Then you might get flex support, main support, you get the idea. This is all just because of the way that the game was made. Sometimes you just lose on the matchmaking, which is why you then have to look at the matchmaking system in itself, and kind of how the game is made. And I think this becomes a tricky aspect. And I think I'm going to get to that in a little bit when I talk about the passives, when, this is mentioned in the post because spoilers passives comes up a lot. The game was originally designed without role lock in mind. And there are some heroes within the roles who differ more greatly than heroes between roles. I think it's one of the slight issues towards this. So yeah, I think you can't fix this issue, basically. It's just not a fixable issue. I mean, even before when, I mentioned like the roll lock thing, before we had roll lock and it was 6v6 obviously at the time, you would get these frustrating games where you might have someone that like no one's willing to play support, but then at least if you have someone with the mentality that I want to, win at all costs, they might flex off their role to go into support to try and, help the team win. When you're in 5v5 with roll lock, you're really like at the mercy of the other players. Like if you're on tank and neither of your supports want to play, anything other than Mercy, and like one of them, I'm just singling out Mercy here. Don't come and get me, Mercy's mains. But like the other one doesn't want to play Mercy, and they're like, give me Mercy or I'm gonna throw. I could have said this for anything. Give me Zen or I'll throw. Blah 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 blah. You can't do anything about it. You're locked into your role. You just have to mediate as, I don't know, some sort of agony ant between them and hope that they help you. There's no way for you to drastically change what you're doing to help win the game, right? And this, I guess, gets into the aspect of the worst attributes of the game, right? That you require your teammates to not be complete dribblers. But this, in part, is what people think Overwatch is. This is what the dev team think Overwatch is. This might not be exactly what other people think Overwatch is for them. And again, I just don't think you can change that. Anyway, let's continue on. We want to improve this. We want to improve this by looking at the game through the lens of teamwork and make it easier for players to be part of the team while also lessening some of the pain when it's not happening. Alright, this is actually a really dangerous concept towards the game, and I hope the developers know what they're doing. Because at one end of the scale, I think you have Overwatch, where you have teamwork, you can, change heroes, you can change strategies, you can communicate, and so on and so forth. And at the other end of this scale, you have deathmatch, where you have no communication, there's no teamwork, the onus is on 1v1 matchups. Occasionally you'll get like a jump on someone and 1v2 them. And it's going to feel really stinky if you do not like deathmatch. If you like deathmatch, then the game is going to feel really good. But this is where the developers need to decide what they think Overwatch should be. They, I guess, are trying to, move Overwatch along this bar this way slightly to make it less teamwork, more deathmatchy. That is going to rub some people the wrong way who went into this game knowing that teamwork was going to be important, more of a MOBA aspect. And they've avoided games which are more deathmatchy, maybe like your CODs, your Fortnites and stuff like that. Your Players Unknown Battlegrounds when that was still a thing. They're not going to react well to this. And you've probably pushed some of these people the wrong way from going from 6v6, which I think there was a bit more teamwork involved in that, to 5v5. And probably from pushing, roll lock to unlimited to roll lock as well. You've probably pushed people the wrong way. So you're kind of risking some of your core audience here who's stuck with you for, 9 years now this game's been out? In fact, a lot of our goals for improving the core game stem from looking at Overwatch as a whole, improving the parts of the game that are working and finding fixes for parts that negatively affect the experience. Really? Don't want to labour the point because we're going to make this much later on. Did anyone say, because this weekend there is quicker play, where quick play basically goes faster, I'll talk about it in a moment. Has anyone ever said that quick play felt too slow for you? Because I haven't heard of it. I've never heard of anyone's complained that quick play was too slow for them. So why are you trying to find a fix for it? What was the fix for? Anyway, I digress. We've already implemented some features to align with this. The ping system and newer spawn together system both encourage team play. The ping system, I think, has been good for the game. I like it. The spawn together system you have to be very, very careful with. I think right now it's good only because you can't feel it most of the time. However, they mention in the next sentence, which I guess I should have gone through, for those that don't know, the spawn together system adjusts the individual's respawn times, so they respawn with teammates more often. This is to try and stop people just staggering out of spawn. The system will get a tuning pass in Season 9 and make the effect more prominent. This is what scares me. What do you mean it's going to be more prominent? Like, the worry is that they're testing quicker play right now, where the respawn times are much less, that they might have this idea that if the quicker play thing is a success, that they should tune down towards making people respawn faster with other people than, you know, making it slower to respawn with others. If you get what I mean with that. Like, if two people respawn at, I don't know, if one's meant to respawn at within 1 second, the other one's meant to spawn within 3 seconds, do you pull the 3 second one down to the 1 second guy, or do you pull the 3 second up? Or do you pull them both ways? Like, the 1 second guy becomes 2 and the 3 becomes 2. I actually don't know how they're going to implement this, and I imagine no one's going to know exactly how they implement this. It's going to be a pretty complicated take. I would also say, there's probably no reason to do this whatsoever. It's really a system that is going to help your lower ranked players who maybe don't have the appreciation of the team play aspect. Because typically, if you're not playing as a team in Overwatch, you're probably not getting the best out of your hero. You're probably not going to be performing better than others who are, and therefore you're going to drop down the ranks. So this is probably going to suit players in the, I don't even know where to cut this off, like bronze, gold, silver, plat, diamond, maybe masters, who knows? Who knows where this cutoff is? But it's really to help players at this lower end of the game. But I suspect by the fact that they're doing this, this means that there's enough players in this bracket that it's a large chunk of the player base. So, again, for the higher end players, the competitive scene, this is not going to feel necessarily good. And in fact, some situations, if it's like this, could cause people to lose matches that they wouldn't have lost before. Just because, like, more people get back to a point at a certain point with, like, impactful ults. Let's say, you know, before you're going to spawn 3 seconds left and you have beat on Lucio, and now you respawn with 1 second instead and you get to the fight 2 seconds sooner to get that beat off and you save your tank and you win the match, you turn the game. Yeah, it's just changing the way the game mechanic works, and I'm not entirely certain it needed to be changed. I mean, people complain about staggering, right? But what is staggering? Staggering is really you just not working as a team. How do you fix not working as a team? I don't know. Can the Overwatch dev team come to around people's houses and knock on and say, like, oh, hello, Mr. Hogmain, can you stop walking out of spawn 5 seconds before your team, using all of your cooldowns before the enemy, before your allies have come out? Thanks. They can't do anything about that, right? Even with this, like, spawn together system, people are still gonna throw, right? You might have, like, a rush comp and you want to play, you know, Death Volley all close together, and immediately, instead, your Moira is going over here. You've got a Rhine pinning off the coast or something, trying to knock people off the map. You might have a soldier just taking an aim 1v1 duel, and you're just sat here as Lucio going, oh, God, please, please, I want you to work together. And then obviously your soldier's like, heal me! Just screaming down the mic, or, you know, in the chat as well. You can't fix this issue. It's not something that's fixable. It relies on the player base, right? All you can do is nurture a positive player base. That's all they can do about it. But they're trying to do some systems to help with it. I think for now the spawn together system is fine, but be very careful is all I'm going to say. We're talking about other features that will make it easier for players to work together as a team. Party frames is one of these. These are on-screen player health indicators that we use in the PvE events. Other possible features include, other possible features such as backfill improvements, changes to our scoreboard, and ways to mitigate spawn camping also align with this. To show the extent of our discussions, even an ally-only minimap feature was discussed. Some of these systems are under discussion and some are in development. I don't think the minimap has a high likelihood of shipping, but I do think party frames are likely. Okay. A lot to unpack in this statement. The first one, though, and I've been a bit negative so far, I think this is fine. The on-screen player health indicators, in case you don't remember, in the top left when you did the PvE events, you'd have, like, the heroes here, like, you know, this might be your Reinhardt, there'd be, like, the health bar here, and it would just show you, like, how healthy your team are. Do I think people are going to use this? Yes, but it's obviously harder to use for certain roles than others. If you're a Reinhardt in the middle of a rush matchup and you're focusing solely on the enemy tank in front of you, you're probably not going to be glancing at this to see how the rest of your team are doing. If you are a Mercy instead in Valk and you're kind of like chilling, then obviously that's really good for you. So it's good information. It's not going to be really bad for people, so why not have it? If it's something in the settings as well, you can just turn off your HUD. There's no downside to it really, so I think that is fine. I guess the only downside is like people just shouting you and like, "How have you already lost 50 health before the battles began?" Whatever. Anyway, the supports could already see that anyway. The other thing that's mentioned here is the backfill improvement. So this is obviously a quick play feature. I think this is something that they could look at, but again, it's another hard fix. And this, we're going to get to quick play again later on when we talk about quicker play. The Overwatch team needs to know what quick play is. They need to actually, like, I think at this point they need to post what quick play is. What is the intention of quick play? Because I think people are getting, like, twisted up about it. And even I get a bit twisted up about it. Of what is this? What is this mode? What are we meant to be doing? Now, for some people, quick play is just casual, right? We casually play the game. And you might say, that's fine. And I agree with the sentiment of this. I think quick play should be more casual than competitive, for example. What I don't necessarily agree with, though, is that some people would say in this casual aspect, winning doesn't matter. I don't think I agree with this statement for quick play. I think winning should matter in quick play. I think you should get pinged up for throwing games in quick play. I know there's no like SR and stuff on the line for it, but I see quick play as somewhere where people can just casually play, in general, the heroes that they want to play. You know, maybe Junk Queen's not meta or something, and you just want to play some Junk Queen or something, and maybe you want to play it with some friends. You're trying to just generally win the game, but you don't quite have this pressure on as a ranked game, right? That your choices dictate what others are going to get as a rank. This doesn't really matter. If you don't win, so be it, who cares? But I still think your intention should be to try and win the game. For others, they just don't care about this. This doesn't matter. Winning is not part of the quick play experience. I had a game the other day where I was messing about in quick play. I think this was for the Malga changes. No, it can't be for the Malga changes because I wasn't playing Malga. I was messing about in quick play anyway. And we had a diva on our team who was just flying into the enemy team, not doing anything other than flying into the enemy team and dying on cooldown. And as you can imagine, we just got steamrolled all the way through the map and lost. That feels really bad, right? That sucks. And I think this again becomes down to the intention of quick play. Is it winning doesn't matter? If that's the case, it shouldn't be called quick play. It should just be called, I don't know. You have to come up with it. It's just not your quick play experience. It's not something that is like... It needs to be like the thing that is just below ranked. I guess it's like, is it casual play or is it quick play is the idea. But I don't think they should be different game modes either. I think this casual play should be more pushed towards the arcade modes than quick play in itself. Then again, intentions of quick play. Should you be trying to run meta comps? No, I don't think so. I don't think you should be trying to force people to swap heroes. I think you can play whatever you want, as long as your intention is to try and win the game. I think that is for the best of what quick play should be. One of the obvious downsides of quick play was people just leaving the game, which again gets down to this, does winning matter? People would lose a fight, or they would lose 2 fights, and they would just instantly leave the game, which would leave you 4v5. 4v5 feels really, really bad. And it feels worse than what 5v6 used to feel like when quick play was in Overwatch 1. And I don't think people had this many complaints about backfill or levers in quick play. The complaints got so bad for this that the Overwatch team introduced a lever penalty for quick play, which in its own right makes me think that they agree with this statement that you should be trying to win, otherwise they would not have put a lever penalty in. They would have said, this is the casual gamer mode, it doesn't matter if you leave, it doesn't matter if you lose, suck it up. But instead they put a penalty in for leaving the game, and that also affects competitive as well. It's actually kind of a brutal lever penalty for quick play, but anyway, I think it triggers after a certain amount anyway, so it's not just one time, it's multiple times of doing it. But yeah, it would also feel really bad if you backfilled into this game, so you would become the 5th again. And if this was the last fight, then obviously you're still going to lose, because this team has all of their ultimates and you're at 0% ultimate. How do you make the backfill improvements? I have no idea. I don't think you can. The only thing I can think of really in what they're probably testing is whether or not, let's say you backfill with, 1 minute on the clock, you get a certain amount of ult charge just preloaded into your character that you pick. Maybe that's what they do. That's the only thing I can think of doing. But even then, after 2 fights in quick play of losing, your enemy team is probably all getting towards the ultimate. So are you going to load in with just your ultimate immediately? Because that might also equally feel bad on the other team if you just suddenly get a free ultimate. Because not all ultimates are built equally. Not all ultimates have a certain, the same ult point system, right? Some are more expensive than others. I know people are surprised by this, but Coalescence costs more than Dragon Strike for Hanzo. Do you get the Coalescence? Do you get the Dragon Strike? Do you get a certain number of points, in which case you don't get Coalescence, but you would get a Dragon Strike? I don't know. The system is going to be really complicated. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to look at it, but I wouldn't necessarily put a lot of resource time into this. You just need to say what quick play is, and yeah, then go from here. Changes to the scoreboard, sure, more information is good, whatever, fine. Mitigate spawn camping, no, don't do that. This might be hot take alley. Spawn camping is good for the game. What is spawn camping? So spawn camping is where the enemy team gets stuck in the spawn, they can't get out, because the enemy team is so dominant. You do get sort of choked in by some doors. But yeah, why do I say spawn camping is good for the game? Well, a next smiley face, this was the enemy team shooting on you. And these are the doors. So why is spawn camping good? So spawn camping is basically the system's way of saying, this team is too good for this team. You might disagree with that statement to some degree. If there was ever a point where I felt that, and I don't think we're there right now, if Team B was beating Team A and Team A pushed them all the way back to the spawn and B could never get out again, even though they were the better team, then maybe you would have to look at spawn camping, but there are ways to address this pretty simply by, giving them another door here or something. Because then it's hard to spawn camp with 2 doors, so you move one of the doors over here or something instead of having them both on the same side. That alleviates spawn camping. It lets you get out easier over these chokes. But I don't think that's really I don't think this is what they're trying to address here. I don't think it's to do with the chokes of the door. I think it's literally trying to help them get a boost to get out of the door. But yeah, this is a system to say that A is better than B. And therefore the game should end as quickly as is possible. I don't think this needs fixing. I don't think anyone's ever complained. I mean, people have complained they've been spawn camped before. That's definitely happened. But I don't think people have complained they've been spawn camped because spawn camping, is hard to break out of necessarily. I think it's more that it's your team not working together, which is, again, the point that we're trying to address before, but I don't think it's a point you can address because it's a team-based game. It's just going to happen. It's a matter of fact of the game. It happens I can't speak for something like League for MOBAs, but I've played Dota in the past. Sometimes you get stuck in your fountain and stuff like that. It sucks. It feels great when you're doing it to the opposition, but it sucks when it's happening to you. But you can't change that system, right? I don't know. And you can't get inside their spawn either. Like, it's not like it's, they push you all the way back in and put you into the corner or something, and it's like, I don't know, give you the beatdown of a lifetime. You sit in your spawn and you feel sad. I assume what they're going to do here is going to be introduce some sort of buff, maybe even a damage buff to the people in the spawn, so that they do more damage to A to get out of it. The other concern for this is, and this isn't just a spawn camping situation, it depends really what they mean by spawn camping. On maps like, I was going to say Rialto, but on Havana, where you have the spawn door, the spawn is here, you have a door here, here. Let me just draw you a picture. The payload is here. There's like a gas pump station thing here, building here with some steps coming up or something, and then the building goes this way. And then the point is go that way. A lot of teams hold in this type of area with some sort of rush comp. Does this count as spawn camping? Because I don't think this is the same as spawn camping. I think this is just holding spawn. And you do this for tactical reasons, right? The reason being that on this map in particular, and there are other maps like Shambali Monastery, they do this as well. If you lose your fight here and you're stood on the cart, you can get another fight at the next corner. If you lose that fight there, you get another fight at the capture point. And by that point, you'll have taken at least 2 fights, which means the defending team probably has got their ults up, so they can fight with ults at the door and just burn off like minutes on the clock for doing this. My worry is whatever system they introduce here for spawn camping is going to affect the system here, and I think this is not a good idea. I think this is a good tactical thing to do. I think it brings a little bit of variety to the game because you don't have to do this. There is a risk for doing this. If you get immediately picked and you fall over, the enemy team will get ults way quicker than you. If on the second fight the same thing happens again, you're not going to get your ults in 2 fights, which means they're going to have a big ult advantage for the third fight, and they'll just start snowballing through you. You're risking getting snowballed doing this, versus just holding the corner over here and taking 2 fights instead. So yeah, I think this is another issue which I don't think needed addressing, but it could have some really big ramifications to the core gameplay experience. And the tactical side of things, which again gets me down to the point where, are they moving Overwatch towards more of a deathmatch game? To show the extent of our discussions... Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot I mentioned this. The ally minimap was discussed. It's not going to come into the game though, probably. I think that's fair enough. You probably don't need a minimap for the game. After a certain amount of time of playing maps, you get used to it, right? It's not needed. I guess the idea was to show like where people were in relation to you, but you can already see their silhouette, so I don't think you need the minimap on top of that. Alright, here is the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing. This is what really like set Twitter alight last night with a lot of hate and a lot of, questions. And again, I don't want to hate on developers, but there are some big question marks in here for me. It's our hope that staying close to your teammates and having more information on what they're doing will help encourage team play. What do you mean closer? I hate to get caught up in stuff again immediately. You don't have to be close to your teammate to integrate with team play. That's not a comparison. This is unrelated, completely unrelated to one another. If you're playing a dive comp, you might set, one flanker going this way, you might pincer with a flanker coming this way, and then your Winston dives over the top. And this might be pretty diffuse, right? Dive, they can cover a large gap pretty quickly, and they all target this one person here. If you're playing a deathball rush, you might have your entire team like covered by this little blanket here, right? Maybe you have people looking off on the flanks trying to deal with like a tracer or something like that, but in general you're all together. This one isn't more team play than this one. In fact, I'd argue this one probably requires a little bit more team play than this one. You can kind of blag Rush a little bit, because at the end of the day, what is Rush? Find the slowest dude and bully him, right? In Dive, you're kind of finding the person with the least amount of tools to escape, which is normally not a good escape tool, like a mobility cooldown or a CC cooldown, and you're just trying to bully them on cooldown. I don't think encouraging people to be close together is necessarily a good thing. I don't think encouraging them to be disperse is a good thing either, because the more dispersed you get, the more you do get towards this deathmatch Overwatch style. But yeah, I don't know. The statement immediately worries me because, and it's not even the actual main problem. It just seems like a lack of understanding of the game. But what happens when your team is not working well together? Yeah, you often lose unless both teams are not working well together, which honestly is the typical crux of Overwatch. Neither team are working well together. Is this meant to be weed? We definitely want to make this a little less frustrating. I think it is. We've talked about the new competitive system coming to Season 9. That's fine, we've talked about it already. There's a massive set of gameplay and balance changes coming that season as well. Okay, we'll address them when they come. Right, important statement. Highlight it. Many of these changes are aimed at reducing damage spikes in combat. Okay, so this is what they're looking at. They are worried about damage spikes in Overwatch. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. I won't get into all of it here. We're working on a standalone post to be published close to the start of the season. But for the sake of the current discussion, I'd like to talk about one aspect of it. As of Season 9, both tanks and DPS heroes will get a modified, tuned down version of the support self-healing passive. This should give non-support players more options in terms of sustaining themselves. It should also take some pressure off support players to keep everyone alive, since individual players can now have more control of their own health pool. Right. To finish the paragraph, Overwatch, there is a constant tug of war between the power of a team and the power of an individual hero or player. A change like this shifts the balance a bit. This is something that we're constantly evaluating. We still want Overwatch to be defined as a team strategy and mechanics, but we feel this can be pulled back a bit now and possibly more in the future. No! 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 You're not doing this! This isn't what's happening. This is such a stupid take! Ah! You're not doing what you're saying you want to do. You want to address the damage spikes in combat, and you give people slow passive healing from the support passive? That won't address damage spikes. That's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant to what you're saying. So that doesn't, improve the confidence of the player base, knowing that you can deal with this. That immediately to address this, you're introducing something that doesn't address it. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Oh my god, just losing my goddamn mind. So I guess we should talk about a few things. Firstly, I'm actually going to go back to this original statement. They want to encourage team play, and we've talked about this, how to encourage team play. If you want to encourage team play, you need to encourage people to, at all costs, be trying their best to win the game, right? And your system must take into account the way the game evolves. As in, if your roles become diverse within the roles, your matchmaking system needs to look at it and not put these people together, because otherwise it's not going to be a fun experience, right, if you get two main supports on your team. I know the tank role is now, gone to one, so you don't have this issue of main tank, off tank anymore, but it's that type of system. So to encourage team play, other things you might want to do is, reward people for swapping to different heroes. Hey, what was, discussed a while ago in a blog? Oh, that was right. They talked about hinting at hero bans and swap tokens, which is actually completely counter to this point here, encouraging team play. Because if you're restricted from swapping your heroes, that means you're restricted at countering what your opponent's doing, which is going to make the game more frustrating. It's going to encourage less team play, because you're just going to pick the hero you want to pick and just go with it. Because if you swap off the hero you like to play, and I don't know how this counter system is going to work, they swap, and you can't swap back to the hero you want to play, maybe. That's just not going to encourage team play, right? That's the opposite of encouraging team play. Similarly, introducing a ban system when, honestly, there's not enough heroes, there will become a point where ban system maybe becomes a thing that they should look at again. But I'm talking about if you get to hundreds of heroes. Like 100 and something. Not at, whatever they are at now. 39 are they at 40 now? I don't even remember. All that's going to happen is, with the ban system, you're going to look at the enemy team. By the way, this is also going to reward you for putting a private profile, just in case you're questioning this. Unless this happens before the private profiles can be checked. But yeah, if you load into a game, and you see on your enemy team, you have, I don't know, let's arguably just take Zebra for now, who picks just Doomfist. Everyone on your team, or let's say your team, the enemy team is going to ban Doomfist, because it's going to make their life miserable. That's not encouraging team play. That's not promoting a positive community. That is promoting a toxic community, right? If you see, it's Skester, right? The Mercy main. They're going to ban Mercy, and Skester's going to be really unhappy because she wants to play Mercy, but she can't, because in this object of encouraging team play, the enemy team has decided to ruin her life. And moreover, you might encourage people on your own team to do this to make them miserable, because making, streamers sad or making good players sad is funny, apparently. So, yeah, I don't think, some of these things they're looking at are in line with encouraging team play, let's put it that way. Anyway, To go back to now the passive changes. So what are the passive changes? And this was a bit of a conflict when we went into Overwatch 2 when they announced that roles were going to get passive abilities. So here are the passives right now, and here's a support role. You automatically heal over time, which means you recover 15 health per second after not receiving damage for 2 seconds. That's really strong. Roll damage. Their passive is irrelevant. It's not quite irrelevant, but it doesn't feel like, you know, it doesn't feel as big as the support one, let's put it that way. You get a 35% reload speed for 2.5 seconds after earning an elimination. This used to be you got a move speed buff, but they found it too strong on certain heroes, therefore they toned it down by removing it. And this is going to become why I don't like the roll passives. Certain heroes benefited from the speed up more than anything. Certain heroes benefit from the reload speed within the DPS role, more so than other ones. Certain heroes in the support role benefited more from this passive than others. Tanks is kind of weird, so theirs is really 30% damage, knockback resistance, which makes heroes like Lucio and Brig feel, and I guess Zen as well now, feel a lot less satisfying because their knockback abilities, which is kind of like the core part of their kit, feel garbage. Also, they generate less ultimate off shooting tanks and healing tanks, which I think is a fine thing, but it's not really like, you know, like when you're saying this is my passive role for being a tank, I don't think negatives are like the reward for being the passive. This kind of should be in another area somewhere, just saying like you don't get as much ult charge off tanks, but whatever. I think these two are actually fine to keep in the game. This plus 150 health, by the way, is for the difference between roll Q and roll open queue, sorry. In open queue, tanks have 150 less health, so in roll queue they get 150 health. But this is typically like the health pool that they normally sit at anyway, so... this is basically the health pool you're probably going to recognize them, unless you play open queue, primarily. Alright, so let's get to the crux of this, and why the roll passes have generally been bad. And to do this, and I say generally being bad, I say this a little bit... I say this as a little bit of I don't super care about some of them. I don't love some of them. I just don't think they were necessary. Let's put it that way. It's not really been this big overarching thing that's caused the game to be awful. Like some people like conflate this. The support passive is making supports completely OP. You know, people were joking saying like, oh, we can't like nerf support, so they've decided to make DPS supports too. This didn't really do that. All you could really say this did was that if you you could poke a support out, and rather than support use their cooldowns on themselves, they could wait for the passive to kick in, and then they could come back out with their cooldowns. So it really gave them more options to use their cooldowns aggressively than defensively. You might argue this is a good or a bad thing, but I think it was a pretty neutral thing. Or at least I think it's something that they could have addressed. And I think in general, the support roles, the supports are all more closely aligned to one another than the DPS and the tank roles are within one of themselves. What do I mean by this? That last statement. Alright, let's go to the heroes in the game. This is all the heroes in Overwatch. So, here's my take on having everyone on a passive. And this, again, we'll go back to the support passive in a moment for why that in general is just bad for all the heroes, but... sorry, especially the DPS and the tanks. But in terms of just the actual roles themselves, I would argue the difference between Wrecking Ball and his playstyle is greater between Wrecking Ball and Reinhardt than it is between Wrecking Ball and Tracer. I think Wrecking Ball is more closely aligned to Tracer's playstyle than he is to Reinhardt's playstyle. I would also argue that Wrecking Ball is closer to Lucio than to Reinhardt. Similarly, I would argue that someone like Mauga is further away from someone like Sigma than he is to someone like Bastion. And this makes sense. The original core gameplay experience had no role lock. You could switch between your roles. Damage was split up as well, remember? It was offense and defense. So the damage role didn't even exist then. It wasn't 3 roles. It was like 4, effectively. And some heroes blurred the lines between being, like a tank and a support, i.e. Brigitte, a DPS and a support, aka Sombra, or Symmetra even. And I still think some of these things persist to this day. And what this makes is that the tank passive, which is, the 30% knockback reduction, this matters a lot more for someone like Wrecking Ball, who, he wants to slam down on a specified area, and if you knock him out of that ability, can mean that he, misses a high ground or something, or he misses a damage, or gets knocked off the map even. This matters more to Wrecking Ball than it does to Reinhardt. It matters more to Wrecking Ball than it does to Sigma as well. It probably matters more to Reinhardt than Sigma as well. So, this blanket passive over across the tank roles, it benefits certain heroes way more than others. In the damage role, the reload mechanic benefits Ashe pretty well, because Ashe has an insanely long reload time. So if she picks someone off at the end of her clip, magazine, I don't know, gun enthusiasts, don't get at me right now. If she has to reload all of her 12 shells, she really benefits from the 35% increase reload times. I think it takes 2.5 seconds for it to reload. I think they might have brought that down now, but 35% on 2.5 seconds, really good. Reaper, who only has 6 ammo, reloads pretty quick. I don't remember what his reload time is. He doesn't get as much benefit as Ashe does. So the DPS passive benefits certain DPS way more than others. What about Hanzo? Hanzo just shoots infinitely, right? He doesn't reload. So Hanzo gets no benefit from the DPS passive. When it was movement speed on getting a kill, Genji loved it. It was insane for him. It made his blades so strong. Widowmaker didn't care for it, because she just stands at the back of the map shooting people. This kind of indicates that Genji and Widowmaker are pretty diverse, right? Hey, who would also love a speed up on getting kills? Wrecking Ball would probably enjoy that. Which possibly means that Genji is more aligned to Wrecking Ball's playstyle than he is to Widowmaker's. Alright, cool. The supports are where it gets a little bit, more finicky. Obviously, Mercy didn't really get a huge benefit from the passive. I think they changed her healing to be sympathetic healing, right, rather than her passive used to be the support passive, so they changed that so that Mercy is affected by it. In general, though, all supports can kind of use the support role passive. I'd say the weakest one from here, though, or the one just immediately catches my eye as I look at it, Moira does not get as much use of the support passive as some of the other supports, like Ana does. Ana's a really good use case for this support passive. Moira typically wants to be inside the battle, healing people. She's normally running death ball comps, so she can't not take 2 seconds of damage. So she doesn't proc the support passive, and she gets no benefit from it. Ana can sit pretty far back in the map. She can step away from when she takes damage. She can use the support passive to heal, and this means that she can use her cooldowns on attacking rather than defending. And her cooldowns are really good, and this is why I really like Ana's balance design. Her cooldowns can be used both defensively and offensively. And the support passive meant that you could use them more offensively than you could use them defensively. That is her biotic grenade and her sleep. You can try and sleep people that aren't engaging on you. You can try and anti people that are across the map and go for kills instead. Anyway, so why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about, heroes are more aligned to heroes from other roles? Okay, let's go back to this now. So the tanks and damage heroes are going to get a tuned down version of the support self-healing passive. Let's go back to the heroes again. Who would love a ability, or what class of heroes would love an ability where if they're not in battle, they get healing? Do 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 to some degree as well. Doomfist, Winston, D.Va. Yeah, any flankers are going to love this. This support passive on all roles are going to be way better on a Tracer. And I think Tracer is probably the biggest problem case for this than any other hero, because one of the counters to the flanker was to, shoot them. I know, Kel Surprise. but you would shoot them, not necessarily kill them, and you would force them to go for, and I don't know if the Blizzard team remember this, there's these things on the map that are blue with a red cross on them called health packs. You'd force her to go get a health pack, and that time out of battle would give you like a pseudo 4v5, where you would have the advantage. Which is why I like Tracer's game design. I think Tracer should be balanced, because her not taking damage, her good movement, her good angles and stuff, means that she can be in fights more often, and she is less given this 4v5, the pseudo 4v5. Makes Tracer players better, right? All that happens with this passive now is she doesn't seek out a health pack, she'll just go behind cover. She will passively heal instead and get back to the fight quicker. So this time is going to be going down, which means that Tracer is improvement, going up. And this is only from the passive, right? Sombra is a similar case. She can get out of fights as well, so she's going to love this. Genji as well can, get out of fights pretty easily. He's going to love it. Wrecking Ball is going to really love this. Like, one of his big issues was that even if he got a health pack, he wouldn't heal back to full. Now he probably will do. So you'll go look for a health pack, heal back to full, back into the battle again. So it's actually a pretty big buff to Wrecking Ball, who, to be fair, probably doesn't need it because Wrecking Ball is kind of garbage right now. Also, I should probably say Echo probably gets a little bit of a benefit from this as well, as someone who can sit on the flanks more often. Alright, so we've looked at some of the heroes that get a benefit. Who doesn't get a benefit from this, particularly? Bastion doesn't really get a huge benefit, right? Bastion is a pretty big hitbox hero. He's going to be fairly close to the battle because that's his range. And he has no movement abilities. Cassidy's not going to get a huge benefit from this. Sojourn is not going to get a huge benefit from this. Soldier, no huge benefit. Symmetra, Torbjorn, Widowmaker. Well, Widowmaker somewhat. Junkrat won't. May definitely won't. You get the idea. Hanzo maybe a little bit. This passive on the support thing, or the support passive going on to the DPS and the tank heroes, are going to affect certain heroes more than others. You can't address that. It's just the case. If you put these blanket passives on people, you're going to affect certain heroes more than other ones, and you're going to artificially buff them. And Tracer just got buffed, so I hope you nerf her again if you're going to do this. If you look in the tank role again, does this help Ramattra? No, not really. Ramattra wants to be brawling. Does this help Reinhardt? Not particularly, although someone did put a question. If Reinhardt shields for 2 seconds, will this passive, kick in? It might do. So Reinhardt might be able to trigger the passives in a brawl battle to gain the support healing, which none of the other supports can do, by the way, exactly. They can try and hide behind the Reinhardt shield to do this, but the entire team doing this is a little bit spooky, right? And by this, sorry, I mean that on their own. They can't really proc their own passive other than, moving away. I don't think Brig's shield really counts. It won't last long enough to do it. But anyway, yeah, these two heroes are not going to be particularly good. So who's going to like it in the tank role? Winston's going to like it to some degree. Wrecking Ball is going to be the big one, right? Doomfist is also going to be fairly big because he has these big moments of impact and then he's out of the fight again. Diva, I put a little mini dot on. She's pretty neutral, honestly, because of her booster cooldown being so short that she's almost always fighting at this point. Roadhog, to some degree, will like it a little bit because he's often on the flanks, right? He's not often frontlining. And maybe Sigma's shield with his suck as well. Maybe he can actually proc this. And then he'll heal as well, during his suck. Who knows? Anyway, as I said, this is the first part I don't like about it. It's going to be asymmetric in what it does to the heroes in the game. This should give non-support heroes more options in sustaining themselves. Does it? Does it really do that, though? So, more often than not, the support passive, the way it's triggered is that the support just ducks behind cover, right? Wait 2 seconds, then they get some healing, and then they come back in again after a certain amount of healing and start, playing the game again. This is really hard to do for the tank. So I think tanks in general are going to struggle to make this self-healing passive work full stop. I did say there were a few of them that will benefit greatly. I think really Wrecking Ball and Doomfist are the two big ones that are going to benefit the absolute most, but I And then maybe Sigma through shielding and, sucking can proc it as well. All of the rest of them won't really get a benefit from this. They don't have the luxury, though, and nor do the DPS to some degree, of necessarily backing up from a fight to do this. Sometimes they have to contest the objective to not lose the game. So I don't think this is going to actually proc, after moaning about it, this is going to proc that much for a lot of heroes. So again, going back to what I mentioned before, some heroes are going to greatly benefit from this. Some heroes are literally not going to benefit one bit. And it's definitely not going to help the support players give them more options of sustaining themselves. That's just not going to happen. You're still going to have to be healing the person contesting the objective. So I think this statement is just not true. At least if this is what your intention was, I don't think this is the way you should have gone about it. Like, surely the way to go about this is to reduce the cooldowns of your healing abilities for yourselves to increase your chance of sustaining yourself, but also then reducing their... You'd have to reduce their effectiveness as being an offensive cooldown. But all this is really weird, and I'm going to mention this in a moment. I can't remember where this was. There's a statement somewhere in here. Is it down here? Yeah, hang on a minute. This statement was incredibly dumb. Sorry, Overwatch team. So, you want to... Where is it? Where? So you want to increase the options of the Oh, it's non-support, never mind. I'm talking nonsense. So yeah, you increase the non-support players more options to sustain themselves. Right, whatever. We've just talked about this. It's not going to help for certain heroes. It's going to help for more heroes. And you already have this thing called health packs. Which, by the way, if you're finding some heroes can't get health packs on maps, that is map design issues. It isn't, give all heroes support passives. Why don't you put the health packs closer to objectives then? And normally, where people fight are close to health packs, because health packs are really strong. This is somewhat of a nerf to health packs. It's kind of weird, right? Sorry, this was the statement I was looking at before. It takes pressure to support heroes to keep everyone alive, since individual players now have more control of their own health pool. What is the point of this? Why? Why would you want to take the pressure supports from keeping people alive? It's kind of within the purview of the support role. I know you're going to get the ML7 bonk hammer thing saying that the healers. One of the big ways the support roles are supporting people is through healing. It's not the only way, but it's one of the big ways to do it. If you take the onus off them from healing, what you're basically saying is we want support players to be more capable of doing damage instead. We don't want the support players to be worrying about healing other people. We want them to be fighting as well. Which brings us back to the point of Overwatch on the scale. And deathmatch is over here. And this change brings us closer to deathmatch. It reduces team play because now you don't necessarily need a support comp that could pump out big healing. You could instead run a support comp that provides more utility instead and maybe does more damage, right? I think that's the big thing. And doing more damage and just instant kills is more deathmatch orientated than anything else. And now, why does this annoy me? If that is the state that they want to take the game, fine, do that. You will lose a lot of your player base, including me. I will be out of there immediately if this goes to any more deathmatchy. What did you say you wanted to do? I want to reduce damage spikes in combat. And you're going to do this by making supports less incentivized to heal others and instead take fights, right? Do more damage, don't heal as much. You're going to reduce the damage spikes. You're not, you're going to increase them. Also, passive healing outside of combat really doesn't affect reducing damage spikes. Is healing, after 2 seconds, 15 HP per second, whatever it is on the support passive, really going to help you from getting headshot by a Widowmaker? No, it's not. That's just nonsense. Like, this entire paragraph is just hypocrisies, stupidity, and untruths. Like, this is such an awful... It's probably like one of the worst things they've ever like put out of the Overwatch team. And they've put some real stinky takes out. But this whole thing is so, like, abhorrent. Anyway, so yeah, I think the underarching goal of this is to make the game feel more deathmatch-like. Reduce any form of team play, give the supports the ability to fight themselves. Because I guess the other thing, if you want to look at it from their angle, for the original brief where they were like, we want to take team play down, it does do it to some degree, reducing team play. Because now on the support, where you might have a game where your team's just taking unlimited amounts of damage and all you can do is just keep healing them. Now you could argue that they can sustain themselves, therefore you can do damage, so your skill expression comes out and you're capable of doing more damage, you're capable of maybe winning 1v1s with DPS more often, therefore your skill shines through and you rise to the top, right? Maybe that is true, but I don't think that's necessarily what you signed up for on the support role. I think the support role, you obviously do need this insane mechanical aim. There are some support heroes that really, really reward that. But I think a lot of support is just playing good positions, staying alive, making good decisions, using your cooldowns intelligently. And this just dumps water on that. It's so awful. And also, if you're really trying to do this and saying, you know, oh, people take too much damage, therefore they can recover their own health by getting out of battle, do you think the low-skilled players are going to do this? Do you think they're going to back off for 2 seconds, or whatever it ends up being? Because it says it's going to be like a watered-down version of it. Let's say it's like 4 seconds instead. Do you think they're going to wait for 4 seconds out of battle not taking damage to heal? Nope, they won't. They won't. Who will do this? Your Tracer player at, well, whatever it's going to be called now, Ultimate Rank. Ultimate! Your Tracer player is going to do this at Ultimate Rank. They're going to try and one-clip like your Zen. They're going to back out. In fact, they're going to recall, go back in again, blink away behind cover, and then wait for this passive to kick in. Rather than going back to a pack, then they're going to go back into the fight again. They're going to bring back up recall. It is going to be such an annoyance that, like, they're going to have to do something to Tracer, so they're going to have to nerf her kit, which is going to be nerfing her skilled part of her kit, rather than the passive, which does no skill expression required. It's such a bad idea. And then the final thing I just want to mention about this, I think, is that it's actually just a nerf to supports full stop if tanks and damage heroes can heal. Because one of the nice things about Overwatch at times is that you could take a bunch of damage on a tank, win a fight, your supports might have both died in the fight, and you would go back to your supports who are respawning, and you could give them the ult charge of the damage you took. This passive is going to overwrite that. So, like, are you going to be speeding tank? Well, not necessarily speeding, because Lucio is a sport. But are you going to be running back to spawn as tank and damage to try and give your supports the ult charge so they can build their ultimates faster? You're going to have to reduce the ult charge rate on supports to give them the ults more frequently to counter this to some degree, I think, no? Like, it's such an awful idea. It's so bad. I would strongly urge, and surely after the... Like, if, you know... Did they say it in here? No. I didn't know if they mentioned somewhere to listen to the community. If they have anywhere near their finger on the pulse of the community right now, they need to not put this in Season 9. They need to at least test it on Quick Play, or Quicker Play right now, before they do this. Ideally, they should let some of the better players as well have a look at this before they do it, because I think it's going to cause the game to feel really, really, really bad. And yeah, the response was overwhelmingly negative on Twitter, and I don't think they can really afford right now to be upsetting their player base, so we'll watch this space. I just can't believe that they didn't see the backlash to this. Anyway, the final paragraph for this is about the experience that's online right now, so you can play it yourself, called Quicker Play. We're actively looking for new ways to improve the core gameplay experience. Alright. Let's take the previous stuff with a pinch of salt. Maybe that was their intention. They're trying to improve the core gameplay experience, and they're going to miss the mark. That happens, right? This weekend we launched our first Quick Play hacked event, where we modified the rules of the Quick Play queues. This first iteration is called Quicker Play, and it changes many of the quick play modes, rules, to make matches quicker. Payloads and capture times are faster, and by the way, this is of the order of, I can't remember what it is now, the payload I think moves, is it 60% faster and the capture rates are 40% faster? I don't remember all of this, the niche numbers. Respawn times are quicker, again I can't remember, it was like 30 or 40%, and matches are shorter, damn right they are. This particular experiment is designed to look at how these changes affect player psychology. Okay? If your viewers to see how they are unhappy, you've successfully hit this mark. For instance, if a player spends less time waiting to respawn, will getting eliminated by an opponent feel less frustrating? If matches are shorter, will each loss have the same sting that it currently does? There are also out-of-game benefits that could come from this event, such as quicker matchmaking and quicker challenge completion. Based on the reception of these changes, the team might use the feedback toward improving the game. So, by the way, if you were thinking, haha, quick play, lol, they're looking at bringing this to ranked. That's what these quick play hacked events are designed to do, which, by the way, is the experimental card. Quicken the feedback loop and allow for swifter implementation of improvements into the game. In fact, we have one more coming later in the Season 8. And that's it for this week. Alright. This quicker play sucks. It is so bad that, again, how did this make it past playtesting? That's what I want to know. How has this gone to live? I know it's only live temporarily, but, like, it's just crazy. Anyway, let's now dissect this paragraph. And the key part here is the psychology part. So, they want to see if a team or a player, if you have less time to respawn, is getting eliminated by an opponent less frustrating? No. If matches are shorter, will each loss have the same sting that it currently does? No. There are also out-of-game benefits that could come from this event for quicker matchmaking. Ding, 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 ding! This is what they're looking at. This is why quicker play is being looked at. They have a problem with matchmaking in the higher end of the game. So they want to shorten game time so that games come up more often that can fit matchmaking. This was the same reason why the game actually went from 6v6 to 5v5. If you ignore all the fluff about this, where they were like, oh, it's going to improve the onus on DPS players to, have more individuality and, it's going to make tanks easier to kill and there's going to be less stuff on the screen. No, the big reason was this, the matchmaking. That the player base had so few tanks that tanks would get insta-queues, whereas DPS would get, like, hour-long queue times. So going from 6v6 to 5v5 and removing one of the tanks allowed for there to be basically the tank player base could go like twice as far as it did before, which reduced the matchmaking queue times for DPS and supports. That was the main benefit from this. They didn't say that, but that was 100% what they were thinking. And I think this is the same case. Because if you're worried, by the way, Olaf saying, we want to increase the onus on people killing others, and we can't do that with two tanks, remove a support then. Go 5v5, remove a support. Then you can't sustain two tanks as easily. But no, we removed a tank instead. Because if they removed the support, then the support queue times would have been heinous. It would have been like 2 hours to queue for a game. But the tank times would be really quick. So they made this decision with quicker matchmaking in mind. And again, quicker completion was the other thing they mentioned here. Have you ever... Oh, challenge completion. I guess this is for rewards. Just vomit. Bleh. Who cares? The challenge completion rewards are so fucking minor anyway. Who gives a shit? But yeah, have you ever heard of someone say, by the way, for quick play, oh, I really wish this game was shorter. Bam! It really bugs me the game is too long. Quick play, it's too much time investment, right? These 10-minute games, fuck, I want to be doing other stuff. Like, I'm trying to watch TikToks at the same time as this. No one's complained about this. Like, it's like, why are you doing this? Not one person said, like, oh, quick play, it's too long. And you've invested development time on this. When at the end of the day, what do people want? They want heroes to play. I know, Kel Surprise, new heroes with game mechanics that are new to the game. They want new maps. Because that is fun. New maps are good. They introduce some intrigue. They don't mind the idea of new game modes. If you come up with a new game mode that is now fresh and maybe, is good for certain heroes over other ones, people will like that. They will get very happy. This is what they want from the game. They want content. Kelsa proves it. They want content for the game. This is a lack of content. This is taking content away. You make a game shorter. That's less content. Again, have you ever heard of a GM player? And, they have 40-minute queues and stuff like that. Have you ever heard of a GM player getting into a game and complaining that the game is too long? No, I've definitely heard of them getting a 40-minute queue and then having a 6-minute push game and complaining about that. What are you trying to fix here? I just don't understand. So, again, let's take it back when I just immediately said no to these two things. Is the game going to feel better if you're respawning more often? I.e., you respawn quicker, and you can get back into fights quicker. Will that mean you forget the elimination you had? No, that's not the way the human brain works, sadly. All that's going to happen is you're going to fucking rage feed back into them again, probably, and, get even more frustrated. Honestly, quicker respawn times, if you're just dying on cooldown, just means you're going to die more often, right? You also have to remember that some eliminations are frustrating because of the way the game works. There might be some sort of randomness involved in it as well. And that artificially makes you think about the elimination more, this random elimination that shouldn't have happened. Like a kunai across the map or something. Versus you getting a fluky elimination, you fire out, sticky orbs from Echo and you just one-shot someone accidentally. You're more likely to forget the elimination. That's just the way we're wired up. We're wired up with, to remember the negative things more than the positive things. I know, humans are stupid, right? If matches are shorter, does each loss have the same sting as it currently does? I said no here, but I guess actually the context should be yes, but... yeah, the matches will still sting the same. And what's worse right now is all they've done here, if you've not played Quicker Play yet, maybe check it out, but... I hate to say this, but part of me wants to say, check out one time and just don't play it again. Because they'll have the analytics of this seeing that people just stop playing this game, and then they will just immediately revert the changes. But all that happens now is that on escort maps, if you lose one fight on the escort point, where you would normally fight for competitive game modes or even quick play in the past, you run the risk of losing the map in one fight. So games can be dictated by 3 fights, and the same comes with Control as well. You lose first fight, you come back fight again, you lose that fight, the enemy team has ultimates, and you are fighting to touch the point. It just leads to matches that are more snowball. You're either going to be the snowballer or the snowball E. And that feels really, really, really bad. One of the worst feelings in Overwatch is getting snowballed. You lose 2 fights, the enemy team gets their ultimates up first, that makes sense, they've done more damage than you. Maybe you get 1 ultimate up first, you get 1 ultimate as well. The enemy team invests 3 ultimates, you invest your 1 ultimate, you lose the fight, you don't have your ultimates coming back up, they're building their ultimates together, you just get snowballed through the map. You never take a good fight. You waste 1 ultimate and you lose the game. That feels really shit. That's probably one of the most shit feelings in the game. And you've made the game mode, which is just heaping dollop of shit, the game mode. It's crazy. And again, people are saying it's fine for quick play because you want the games to be quick. The clue was in the name. Again, improving the game. They're looking for competitive because they want to shorten the quick queue times so that their higher ranking players can get games more frequently so they don't drop out of the game. Rather than trying to, sort issues out with the matchmaking and how it works and how it rewards SR or whatever it does right now, to maybe expand the matchmaking out so you can find games more frequently, and maybe those games where you have less skilled players don't give as much matchmaking as the more competitive lobbies, which would be some sort of fix for it. Nope, we're getting Snowball the game mode. It's crazy. It's actually just crazy. And again, the thing about it, and I don't think they should just listen to, Overwatch Anonymous, because most of those takes are awful. But have your finger remotely on the pulse of the Overwatch community is all I'm going to say about this. And I just don't think this is having your finger on the pulse of the community. The only thing is said, to reiterate this 18 times, I think this is what they're trying to address, quicker matchmaking. Everything else is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. It's just excuses to make quicker matchmaking, so... That's my take on the patch notes, or the developer blog. And what really sucks about this, just as a final thing, is I would say there was an air of optimism about Overwatch. People were looking forward to Season 9. Hell, I was, and I don't play a lot of competitive. And I was looking forward to checking out how this competitive system worked, and maybe it was a bit of a revert back to where it was in the past. And then they just released this, which then immediately makes me think, oh shit, they have not got their finger on the pulse of the game. Which means that this matchmaking thing, the new competitive system, won't have its finger on the pulse of the game either. And what they said and what they're going to do is going to be conflicting, and it's not going to come together, and the game is going to feel really stucky. And eventually this is going to break the backs of, players of the community, and they're just going to keep leaving. And eventually the game is just going to, drop down. So yeah, that is my concern right now, but I'm hoping that they've looked at the general feedback and are having a second thought about this one, or at least saying, we'll test it on an experimental patch. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll see you again next time. Bye.